And I think as parenting is really a process of getting your children to that point where, I mean, you don't start out when they're toddlers of saying, okay, make a decision of whether you're going to put the fork in the light socket. You have to give them choices that are age appropriate, but it's just that evolution over time as they grow in learning from their own choices and success and failure. Because if you don't, you end up with kids that can't make any decisions for themselves and they can't take responsibility for anything and they're not prepared for the world.
Yeah, that's critical. And so think about that. And if you're an entrepreneur, which probably most people listen to this are, it actually is kind of rare when a child follows their parents' entrepreneurial, bents,
Yes.
right? They may start a different business. They'll usually go another way. Welcome to the Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help home service pros cut through the noise, sharpen their business tools, and reclaim the profit, freedom, and impact they've been missing. I'm your host, Richard Walsh, Profit Freedom Coach, and I'm here to help you stop grinding and start growing. Let's sharpen the spear. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast. And you guessed it, I've got another incredible guest. Not only an incredible guest, but a man who I had the privilege and honor to be on 2 of his podcasts. Both
That's
podcasts,
correct.
Right, Christian?
That's
yeah.
correct.
So, man, see, I'm like super celebrity.
Yes,
I
you
know
are.
everyone doesn't know it, but I'm like that. I'm that guy. But regardless of that, Christian, as we always do in STS, no one knows Christian as well as Christian. So Christian, give us some backstory, get us up to speed, and we are going to have a magnificent conversation.
Absolutely, we are. Well, my name is Christian Brim. I have been married for 32 years in August to Stacy. We have 3 adult children, 2 daughters and a son, which I kind of live by the Jordan Peterson advice. If you enjoy spending time with your adult children, then you raise them correctly. So that I as much as I did wrong, I at least did that right. I am an entrepreneur of 28 years, recent author, and as you mentioned, podcast host. There's a lot of things that I could say about me, but I don't know what would be interesting to who. You know me a little bit. You can ask a prompting question of what you think would be interesting.
That's right. So there's many interesting things. Okay. So there's what you do. Okay. So we've got that, the professional Christian.
Yes.
Right. Then we've got the creative Christian.
Yes.
Right. You kind of got that. You blend the 2 together.
Yes.
A bit. Right. So those are 2 great things to talk about a bit, but really what I want to hit is so I did some quick math as you were speaking. So 28 years as an entrepreneur, 32 years being married. Okay. So you had that 4 years of bliss, and then you went and ruined it by becoming an entrepreneur, right? So how are you still married? That's what I want to know.
By the grace of God.
Let's start with that secret.
By the grace of God.
Amen, brother.
I was relating that one of my colleagues that actually inspired me to start one of my podcasts. I was having cocktails with him yesterday and catching up, and he is by profession. He was an entrepreneur, had a large exit, and now he has obtained his doctorate in psychology and is working on his licensing. And we were talking about marriage. He's been married not quite as long as I have, but I was relating to him how, 5 years ago, I guess now, I don't know. There was a point during that time where I thought my wife was going to divorce me. I thought the marriage was over. And, he asked me yesterday, so how did you guys get through that? And that was my answer, the grace of God. It wasn't any power of mine. It was the ability for us to show grace to each other, but also the grace of God that he would allow us to accept that grace. Because I think a lot of people that have been in marriage a long time, especially if one of them is an entrepreneur, things can go sideways. And not that they can't in other non-entrepreneurial marriages, but entrepreneurs bring a special set of problems to the mix. And, I'm thankful that I wasn't a statistic, because had I regardless of what professional success I had had, I would have felt like a failure if my marriage had failed. And I'll add to that, you mentioned the 4 years, and I was laughing because when we decided to, maybe I should just say I decided to quit my job and start the business, we went down to the altar. We went down to the Lord's table to pray about it that Sunday. And I can remember vividly looking over at my wife, and she just had tears streaming down her cheeks. Like she was terrified and did not want me to do it and was resistant. But once she knew that I wasn't going to change my mind, she was all in.
So there weren't tears of joy?
No, she's like, what did I do? So, and by that point, we'd already had 2 kids. So like she was stuck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of share, mine's a little different, right? So I got married late, 30, not late as far as a lot of people go. I'm 34, I was 34 and got married. Business was humming, things were great, right? My wife comes into that. She's like 9 years younger than me. So all that's good, that's great. And then 0809 hit, right? And I lost everything, went through all that, and then we had to rebuild. Mm-hmm. And I'm not employable, so all I could do is have another business. That is a process if you haven't been through it. Like if you just came in when things were good, mm-hmm. and now you got to start over and do that, buckle up. Mm-hmm. Okay, that'll test everything. So
100%.
I know the reasoning for her tears.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm glad you were able to, bring that along, and everything else. I've had to do the same thing. And again, through the grace of God, it's the same principle. It's like, and here's the thing, I was going to just hit this kind of high level, but God put you together. Mm. Okay. So for believers, for Christians, marriage is a covenant, and that's just between you and your spouse. It's you, your spouse, and God.
Yes.
Okay. And so you think he wants to break it?
No.
If he put it together? No. Okay. So there's no quit. Okay. I'm putting it out there.
That's
no
correct.
Quit. Okay. I told a young guy the other day, I was in the butcher shop, and I know him, I know his dad, and he just got married like a month before. Say, hey, how's married life? He goes, that's good. I go, okay, well, I'm just going to give you my little bit of advice I give all newlyweds. I go, you need to remember, marriage is work, and It's always going to be work.
Yes.
Okay, it's good work.
Yes.
I said, but it's always going to be work. And he goes, yeah, I'm figuring that out. I'm like, you've been married a month.
Yeah.
Oh man, do we need to talk? So, but when you're young and you're new and you get married, and actually I like hearing that he's figuring it out. That means they're working through something early and often, which is great. So I was put that out there because
I was sitting on the couch actually last night, and I was looking at this picture that was on the mantle of me and my wife and her sister when we were in college. And I said, you see those 2 kids with your sister? And she said, yeah. I said, man, they didn't know anything. Like I had no idea what was coming, good and bad. Like, and you can't explain it to somebody. And, I think that's by design. I think, you can give advice and that's all well and good. And oftentimes you should give advice. But you've got to experience some things, and marriage is one of them, to really understand it. And if you don't, you're not going to learn the lesson.
Yeah, I think I have, I had 6 teenagers. One's 20 now, going to be 21 soon. So I kind of get that. I have lots of advice. I've lived long. I have more wisdom than advice.
Yes.
They don't really want it.
No.
Okay. But I have a saying. I tell them what they should do, even if I demand they do it at some point. And I always follow it up with, you can thank me later.
Yes.
You might be 30
yes.
when you thank me. Okay. But if I don't say something, if I don't put it on the record, as they say,
yes.
Okay. Then I'm being remiss.
Yes. 100%.
As a father.
Yes.
But I have one 18-year-old, and you can't, he will do nothing I say. And it's straight up legit easy. It's not like, will you ever? I ask, will you ever do anything I suggest? Like whether it's working on the car, change that, he's that guy. And that's okay. He's going to grow out of that. He'll have his stories about what a goof he was, just like I do at that time, right? I got plenty of those, young and dumb. Yeah. You still have to give the advice, give the wisdom, share it. hopefully, now, depending on the kids, some take it and they do it. They
Yes.
do really well and they excel. And I have that too. So I kind of have a nice mixed bag there with all 6 kids. So it's really good. So we'll just see what the outcome is as we roll down the road.
Yeah. And you have to, as a parent, realize at some age, that that's probably different for every parent and child, but at some age, it's theirs to own, and you can make suggestions or recommendations, but it's their decision to make, and right or wrong. And I find, have you seen the meme where the video of the dad sitting in the recliner and his toddler son is coming around with a fork to put it in the electric socket? Have you seen this?
Well, I saw it the other day with my granddaughter. Well, but that was in my
so the kid's about to stick the fork in, right? And the mom's running around the chair going, no, 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 no. And the dad says, hold on a minute, let's see what happens. And that shows the difference between mom and dad, right? Moms have a lot harder time letting kids fail than dads do normally. And I see this with my wife, who our youngest is 24, and she's still worried. I don't think moms ever stop worrying about their children, but at some point you just like, it's his mistake to make.
So, Christian, I think of this like moms never stop worrying. You know what dads think about? They are always on the payroll.
Yes.
That's how they think.
My 31-year-old daughter has a great job, financially secure, and somehow she's still on my damn cellular plan. I don't know how.
That's right. It's just because you haven't told her not to be. Yes. Because we love our kids. And listen, if it's not killing me, I'm happy to help.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I hope they're going to do the same thing. We have to lead by that example. And oftentimes I see that, and we have those challenges with my wife and I, because I'm like, yeah, when you got 6 drivers in the house on the insurance, 8 drivers, 8 with my wife and I, so 6 kids, 6, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Oh, man. And that bill comes every month. All my kids work, and guess what they pay for now?
Insurance.
All their insurance.
Yes.
Their phones, they pay for their phones, gas, oil change. Welcome to the real world, and they love it. It's great because they're making great money. They're great workers. I'm like, the sooner you do this, the better. Now, they don't have to move out. I'm like, you don't need that expense. You need to bank. You need to invest. You need to get a good head start. Don't go out and engulf yourself in debt where you'll be under that thumb for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So we've done that, and they kind of get it. My daughters, hey, when you get married, you can move out. I have that stipulation, like it's totally okay.
Right.
Be here to get married, then off you go, and it'll be all good. So
yeah,
keep banking that money.
And I think as parenting is really a process of getting your children to that point where, you don't start out when they're toddlers of saying, okay, make a decision of whether you're going to put the fork in the light socket. You have to give them choices that are age appropriate, but it's just that evolution over time as they grow in learning from their own choices and success and failure. Because if you don't, you end up with kids that can't make any decisions for themselves, and they can't take responsibility for anything, and they're not prepared for the world.
Yeah, that's critical. And so think about that. And if you're an entrepreneur, which probably most people listening to this are, it actually is kind of rare when a child follows their parents' entrepreneurial, bents,
Yes.
right? They may start a different business. They'll usually go another way. And that's a whole another topic. We can say the whys and what fors, but that ability to make decisions, to have critical thinking skills, okay, doesn't matter what they do.
True.
It applies to everything.
Yes.
Right. So to me, probably like you, Christian, this is a responsibility for us when we train up our kids.
100%.
Right. Like, if you're not empowering them with that ability to choose and make wrong decisions, okay, like you said, when you can mitigate those,
right? It's not life threatening, right?
They're not going to lose a digit. They're nothing like that. But hey, here we go. Now they're going to do. I'll do that. Like I'll give them options. Say, so pick your option. Which one do you think's best? And they'll say, oh, I think this one. And I'll walk them through the pluses and minuses. So you still want that one, or do you want a different one? I said, totally your choice. Well, I think it's going to be, I don't think that's going to happen. Excellent. Off to it. Go do that one.
Yeah.
And then it happens.
But the hard part is watching them suffer the consequences, right? Like, because nobody wants to see their kid hurt, right? But, sometimes you got to let them hurt.
Yeah, you do. You have to let them fail. Let them lose money. Like, like a lot of money. Sometimes, like they do make some really bad decisions, even though you tried to guide them. Like, and you just step back and you know what they say, education's expensive.
Yes, sir.
This is really going to, and you know what? They deal with it. Man, I hope you only learn through that kind of pain.
Yes, 100%. The story I like to say, when my parents got divorced when I was 2, and my dad got custody of me and moved back home with his parents, and his 2 younger brothers were still at home. And so there were, 6 of us in a 2-bedroom house. And I remember vividly sitting on the counter with my grandmother. And for some strange reason, there was a mousetrap on the counter. It's not where I'd put it, but that's where she put it. And she saw
it's the highest traffic.
Well, exactly, right? Shouldn't be, but anyway, I'm looking at it, and she looks at me and she says, "Don't touch that." And then she sees me reaching for it, and she said, "Don't touch that." And then she went back to doing dishes or whatever she was doing, and then I reached over and touched it. And I still to this day cannot set a mousetrap. They petrify me. And the other lesson that I learned is, and this sounds stupid, but it's true. You trust the people that care about you, right? Like if the people that care about you say don't do something, there's a reason. And I never questioned my grandmother again. Even when I was a teenager, right. I was like, well, she says it.
I thought you were going to say you learned to hire an exterminator.
I did not understand. I didn't understand what the device was.
Entrepreneurial takeaway.
I understood that it hurt when I touched it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. Believe me. So, I love it. Yeah. It's that education. So we homeschooled all our kids, right, all the way through. So I have one left. She has one more year. She'll grab my 2 twin boys just graduated, like got the diploma. We did all that stuff. Everything looks good, out doing their thing. It's exciting. But that whole process, watching that evolution of kids learning, growing, doing things not, I'll say, with the herd.
Yes.
Okay. Like it's very, even the people who hung out with their, other homeschool kids or whatever, but, and people all have their concepts of what that actually means, but they're usually wrong. But it was a great experience, and to see the outcome. Again, I think, I could have done more. I think we always think that,
sure,
right, as a parent. But I'm watching the fruit. I'm seeing what they're doing. And I'll give you one. I think I've talked to you since this happened, Christian. One of my 19-year-olds, because I have 2. I have a 22 19s, 2 18s, and a 17. So we're at the kitchen counter one night, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm going to move out." He said, "I'm going to move out." And I go, "Oh, okay. Well, when?" He goes, "In the morning." I went,
"Okay."
Oh, in the morning he came up with 2 bags. All right, see ya. And he went and got in his car and he drove. And he got this place 45 minutes away. Went and got a new job. Started doing the whole thing. Pops in every couple of weeks, for a couple of hours. I'm like, and I learned from another guy. He said, "Well, if you do it right, the kids just leave."
Yes.
They're not locked in. They don't need the apron string kind. They just, and he's that. Yeah. And he's killing it. Been promoted multiple times to this job already. All this stuff, this new job. I'm like, I love him for that. Like, I'm like, when he came up with those bags, I'm like, I did well.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to hear it at the counter. I want to see it in the morning. And I saw it, and he did it. He's saying he's killing it. I'm like, this is a victory.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can't make it. So I think, my 24-year-old son moved back in with us to finish school, and he graduated in December and started working last month. He has not left yet. He actually did leave when he went to college and then came back. So he's lived on his own. But this interesting dynamic shows up with his mother, and mom still wants to be mom, and my son does not want to be mothered. Right. And so like he and I have had conversations about his intent and when he's leaving. And he told me, he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be out by the end of the year." And I looked at him, I said, "You won't make it." He goes, "You're probably right."
Yeah. Yeah. It is that, I see that too, and it's all, listen, I was out of the house at 16 and the Marine Corps at 17, so I have a very different experience. Mm-hmm. Right. So my kids, I'm trying to do everything kind of different than how I came up, and it's worked out well for the most part, but you still, they're all individuals.
Yes.
I mean, again, I have 6 kids all within under 4 years of each other.
Right.
So it's like a little gang. Okay. But the gang of individuals.
Yes.
Okay, no two are my twin boys, my biological twin boys. The only similarity is they're born at the same time.
Yes.
6'6", the other one's like 6'1", totally different interests. I mean, worlds apart, right? So I'm telling you, people don't even know they're twins. Okay, it's like, no, I'm his twin brother. It's hilarious, and I'm like, that's what I'm saying. They're not. No two of my kids.
No, and I think I thought that, as a new parent, that there would be more similarities. And I think it's also interesting how you can see yourself and your spouse in your children, but they're not exactly the same, right? Like, so I've learned about myself and I've learned about my spouse from interacting with my adult children, because I'm like, okay, that's where that comes from. That makes more sense, right? Because one of the hardest things, I'd say even impossible things, is to see yourself as you're seen in the world, or as others see you. Like you can't. But when you get it reflected back to you in your children, if you're willing to see it, you can learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, interesting enough, my son, who's in the Marine Corps now, my oldest, was back in January, and we got invited on a podcast, one that I had been on, and she was on mine, and she wanted to interview him and me right together. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So, and she's asking these questions, Christian, and he's giving these answers. I didn't talk a lot on the episode because I'm just listening to this kid talk about how he was brought up, the things that why he doesn't quit, what discipline means to him. I don't quit, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, you're hearing this stuff. And I had two big takeaways. One was, she asked him, like, well, why the Marine Corps? Why this? He goes, I want to be able to protect my family with both my hands and a weapon. And I'm like, so right then, and I kind of chimed in, I go, okay, I'm going to tell you the difference between you at 20 and me at 20.
Yes.
Okay. I did the thing to do the thing. There was no thought past the accomplishment of the thing. You are thinking like 6, 7 years out, 8 years out, So I'm like, and then, so he did that. And then she's asking him, like, you boxed, you did this, you ran, you boxed, you did this, you're going to the Marine. Well, how come? And he's like, well, that's how he always starts. He always goes, well, my father did all those things. So I thought he did it. I'll do it. And it hasn't led me wrong yet. And I'm just sitting back going, man, that is like, did you plan this? I'm like, these are things a father wants to hear. I'm like, just off the cuff like that. Just being interviewed and I'm there. It was so cool.
Yes, that means you did it right. And it reminded me of I was in service Sunday, and we were singing songs, and in front of us there was a couple, and they had 2 children. One was an infant and one was 2 or 3. The 3-year-old was standing next to her mother, and her mother had her hands out like this. And she was singing, and I'm watching this 3-year-old, and she just opens her hand, right? And in that moment, I actually teared up. I was like, God showed me the love of the Father in that mother and what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be like that 3-year-old of just emulating, right? Just do what I do. That Jesus says, do what I do. And you'll be okay, and have that faith like a child. And it was just like this brilliant insight moment when I was like, yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we don't, I have a saying, we always say, more is caught than taught with children, right? So like, people ask me all the time, I do a lot of interviews and all this stuff, but I'm like, well, you can't say one thing and do another. That's what that actually means.
Yes.
Okay. Because they're only going to do what they see, not what you say. Okay. That's the reality. It might not be till they're 30 and things are really bad, but they will default to however you reacted in a bad time or a good time or whatever that is. They're going to follow your example, not your words. I mean, yes, words are important and they may help, but if you're not congruent with your walk and your talk, I don't know where you're failing.
Yes.
You're 100% failing because you're letting your children down.
Yes.
Because you're not congruent. You're teaching them to be all over the map. They're not going to be consistent on stuff. They're not going to understand principles. They're not going to understand diligence, right? How you stay in you do this consistency. There's a lot of little lessons in that kind of behavior that gets caught by your children.
Yes, and you don't know what they catch. Again, going back to that, like,
right.
You don't truly know yourself, right? And so there's some things that you say or do that you don't realize, and you don't realize what they pick up. And having adult children is fascinating because, you have this memory of raising them, and then they come and they're like, well, do you remember that time you said this or did that? And I'm like, I have no recollection. I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's just the difference of perspective, right? Like what they remembered versus what I remembered or what I thought it was important. And, I think that shows up consistently with parents where, the things that you did, you don't know the impact you have on your children until much later. And then it shows up. But, and to your point, that's why it's so important to be a person of integrity, because you can't be somebody at home and then be somebody different at work and then somebody different at church or, in a social setting. You need to be the same person.
Yeah. You need to be the same person in private as
100%.
you are in public. That's, if you can just think of it that way.
Yes.
If you go to work and you're a complete jackleg, mean to everybody and all that, and you come home and you're sweet as pie to the kids and your wife, everything else, or vice versa. Maybe it's the other way. You're nice to everyone at work and you come home and you're a tyrant. Okay. Well, that is, wow. You talk about messing some kids up. Okay.
Yes.
Because they're going to hear from the people in public, oh, your dad's a great guy. This
you don't know.
Like,
yeah,
he is. Because, yeah, you don't know my dad. Like,
yeah.
You haven't been on this side of the door. Okay. You got to be on this side of the door or the belt. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's fascinating when we think about it. And it is cool, like you said, Christian, when their recollection, because their priority at that time was way different. We can say something that's off the cuff. We probably said it 30 times and we just relate it. But to them, we may have said something and that to them was like this pivotal thing at that moment, because you don't really know all the stuff's going on in their little life or in their head and how they're seeing things. And they take that in, and we've all got those stories. I tell my dad, who's 80, what is he, 80 now, 81? And I'll tell him, saying, he's like, I did?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you remember when? And those are good stories. Because it's great when we kind of laugh. No, that happened because of me. It's awesome.
Well, I was talking to one of my entrepreneurial colleagues who, her husband was a drunk and divorced her with 2 children. And she had been, the society wife and not had work or income. And so she was immediately thrust into the situation of having to, she actually created a business and raised these 2 boys on her own. And she was lamenting that she felt like she had neglected her boys because she didn't always cook dinner because there wasn't time. And she asked her adult boys, I really need to come clean with this. I don't think that I was a good parent because of this. And they just looked at her like, really? Like that? I mean, that wasn't even on their radar. Like, oh, we got McDonald's tonight. Great. But that's the other thing is what you beat yourself up about, right? Like, I wish I had done this differently as a parent, which we all have those stories. And the reality is it may not have made any difference to them at all. Right.
It's wild. Like I would say in that situation for me and my mom, anytime she didn't cook, it was an upgrade. I asked her once, Mom, 18 years you've been cooking and you haven't gotten any better. I said, I don't understand how that happens. You're supposed
She's
to be
no interest in it. That's, that's it.
That's right. Exactly. So, but yeah, it's so true. We have different priorities. We have different, well, I don't want to put it in the category of belief, but we believe, we think, hey, we cooked every meal. Now my kids, we grew up, we cooked all the meals. People would come over their friends and I made individual breakfast.
You were a short order cook.
I took orders. I just, whatever you want. What do you want? Oh, waffle? Yeah, I'll do up some waffles for you. I'll make some eggs. And I'm doing that. And people are like, are you out of your minds? Aren't you spoiling your kids? They go, no, they eat what they want. They have food. They eat. I'm here. I'm a
I
really
enjoy
good
it.
cook. I really am. I'm just like, what's the problem? They love it. I find out what they like and what they don't like. He will not eat an avocado. If he even smells a banana, he's going to lose it. Okay. So no bananas in this stuff, right? You get it, right? You don't find that out 5 years later. It's like, I pureed all their food. They never ate food from a jar.
Yeah.
Right. Little things like that, like, hey, my kids are healthy, whatever. But that became the thing. They never had a soda till they're like 8. Okay. They thought McDonald's was the coffee store because my wife would pull up the drive-thru and just get a coffee.
Nice.
They literally thought if they were like 8 or 9 before
There's
they figured
food
out
in there.
they had food. Yeah, they go, they do food. Yeah, I guess they call it food, but it's not really food. But it's just that, again, this is what my kids knew. Their friends would come over and open the fridge and be like, "You don't have any food," but it's packed with veggies and all this like
Food,
real stuff you have to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just funny, and it just became the kind of the thing, and we always had other kids over there.
Well, and I think like 100 years ago or 150, where we were all agrarian, and that's what the majority of people did, and everybody worked together as well as lived together. How much different the family dynamic is versus our modern world. Like, if you're working alongside your parents and your siblings from the time you can walk, what an amazing intimate relationship, that potential that we don't really have that opportunity anymore.
What's interesting, this is a fun fact. During the Puritan period, when the Puritans were 1600s, right? They had a 97% literacy rate. You know what it is in the USA today? It's like 93.
Well, that's higher than I thought. Okay, good.
Yeah, but that's the number. But think about that. No schools, but the home. Sons work with their fathers, right? They were from a young age. I did a similar thing with my kids, just to teach them to work. You're right. It's a very different dynamic. And here's another fun fact, and this applies to entrepreneurship too, because it'll come down to hiring and the workforce and things like that. We are at the first time in the U.S. history, we're at 1.6 on the replacement birth rate. That's 2.1 is the minimum to replace. So Japan, there's I think 110 countries that are now below the birth rate. I mean, Germany, Italy, there'll be none. There'll be no Italian. It's going to be gone, and no one is doing that. So it's kind of an interesting thing, but it's one of those demographics, those data points that a lot of people don't look at, Christian, from a business.
No, it is.
Like, look at Japan. Japan can't build cars there anymore.
Well, and workforce. China is in the same boat. Right.
China, they're going to be done. They can't make up for the one-child policy. They'll be finished.
It is interesting from a business standpoint. Like, you talk about the decisions that we make as entrepreneurs are micro decisions, and they're like turning the rudder in the canoe. But the things that do affect us are like the tsunami waves, right? We can't control that, and it's coming, but we oftentimes neglect them. Like, and one of those is the decline in population. Like, the last century or more has been predicated on more people all across the world. And now we're talking about potentially the population shrinking. And it's like, what does that world look like? But I don't know, but it's something that you need to have in the back of your mind contemplating, because it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, as entrepreneurs, I always try with my clients too. We want to be forward thinking. I was in the meeting just before this on the same thing, like what's actually coming. I had a guy on my podcast yesterday, and we're talking about AI and everything else. I said, now we're going to do a little bit of predictions, but I'm going to put a restraint on it. First, I was at 18 to 24 months only. So I asked him on that, and he gave me, well, for the next 12 to 18, I'm like, see what you're doing there? You already had a short, because you can't, right now, you cannot predict out 2 years from now. Things changed. It was a great conversation, but really brought it up to the forefront. Like, okay, we have to be very reactive. We have to be very flexible. We have to keep looking down the road, right? You drive a car, you don't look at the hood.
Right.
You look down the road. You don't look right in front of the car. You got to look down so you can go straight, get to where you want to go. And this is one of those points. We're at kind of that pivotal point now, Christian. I think and I'm not going to spend a long time on AI. I've been a little nutty about it lately, but it's this tool.
Yes.
I'm going to call it a tool. Okay. AI is the most revolutionary thing, I think, almost in the history of the world.
Potentially.
Okay. Yeah. Like Industrial Revolution, super cool. Okay. Really big. I know we can go back and, I'm talking business from a business standpoint. To me, it's going to change the landscape in ways
that is correct.
You can't even imagine yet.
That is correct.
You're seeing some things. I got a pretty good imagination. And I'm not going it's going to be Terminator, we're all going to die. And I'm not that, but the uses even just for good. Okay. I'm like, cause I'm applying it in these businesses I'm coaching, work with, and it's an accelerant.
100%.
Okay. Let me use that word.
Which might be necessary if we have fewer people, right? Like we might have to have that efficiency because we've got fewer people.
That's it.
I agree with you 100%. I think I started looking at AI 8 or 9 years ago before LLMs and doing research on it. The book I recommend, it's at least 10 years old, but I still recommend everybody that's interested in the subject read, is called Prediction Machines. And it was written by not computer scientists, but by economists. And they talked about, what if AI does transform these things? What could the potentials look like? But they did it through a principled economic model. And it was fascinating. And the other thing I did when I was reading those books, I went back and studied the Industrial Revolution, which you mentioned, because I thought that is a similar inflection point in history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what changed, what didn't change, right? And no one can predict what's going to happen. You're exactly right. People that say they know what's going to happen are full of shit. They don't know. But what we do know is that the change is coming. And to your point, we have to be cognizant, we have to be aware, we have to be agile. We cannot be reactive. I mean, you're going to get squished.
Yeah, I think, and I've never been one of these. Early adopter. Okay. We have to embrace it. And I'm not, I guess technically you could be, if you're doing AI now in your business, you're technically an early adopter, right? Because the masses aren't doing this. But in my meeting just before this, I'm like, this is an absolute must for your survival as a business in the industry now. I'm like, this is like, there's no waiting. We're doing this now. This is our focus. Get this, bring this in, have this demo on Monday. We're like, because when I was talking to this guy yesterday, who's actually created an AI browser and all really cool stuff. I'm like, you will, and I was having this thought as I'm talking to him going, you will literally be able to exterminate your competition if you're an early adopter. Because what you're going to be able to, I'll go ramble for an hour, Christian. So I'm just saying, like, you cannot even comprehend the power of these tools and what they can do for your business.
Have you seen the tool Lovable?
Amazing. Yeah, that's right here on my phone. Yes, I interviewed the guy who made it.
Fascinating. Like, I'm like,
yeah, he's my friend. Like, he's my friend now.
This is incredible. And that's just one example. But then, we talk about how it's going to affect things that we don't necessarily think about, like medicine or robotics, or, again, we can't predict. We don't know, because there's so many people pouring so much money and time into it, and they're all going different directions. And how do you predict that? It's chaos. Who knows?
And you've created something.
Exactly. So who pre-internet? So go back to when we were in our 20s or 30s, who would have been able to, who would have predicted, first of all, the internet, online shopping, the iPhone, that we're all carrying computers in our hands, Wi-Fi, like all of these things we could not have predicted or envisioned.
Exactly. That's one of the advantages of having time in the game. We can look back and go, we couldn't. I always tell people, go back 25, 30 years. Think about what goes on today. Could you have all predicted that? No. Right. All things, whether it's technology, gender, all the crazy stuff, right? Like you got to be kidding me. So now I say, now stand here today and try to predict 25 years ahead. you can never do it, right? Like you don't have a prayer. I look at it like now, like I'm saying, I'm seeing these tools, and once I like let go of the resistance, I get a little pushback, and again, I'm Terminator, and I'm gonna do it. Oh, and all of a sudden, it's like the scales are dropped from my eyes. I can see all these uses. Like I am way keyed up when I talk to my clients. Like you're all
Yeah.
getting on board, and I'm telling them why, and I'm spending time. I'm like, watch what this does. Like, let me share my screen. Okay, like let me share what we're doing. And all like, my guy today, buy 2 of those, get 2 of these.
It's
get
almost
those.
like, in some organizations, it might be easier to start from scratch. Like forget how you do things now, right? And trying to figure out how to fit these things in there. Pretend you're starting over. How would you build it? And yeah,
clean
really.
slate. Well, the big thing, Christian, this is important for guys like you and I too, and all small, mid-sized businesses. It will level the playing field. And this is why you have to do it. If you don't, you will be squashed out of existence by the big guys, because they're going to suck in that market share with these tools that you can literally compete with them and beat them. Like that's why it's so critically important that you embrace this. And I don't care what you do, there's an application.
And I think that for businesses that have been in business for any period of time, I think that the 2 most valuable things that you have are your customers, which is multifaceted. It's not just the relationships and the trust, but it's also the information they can give you about what they need. So that's most important. And right behind that is your own intellectual property. What about whatever it is that you do or make. And if you stand on those 2, I think you're going to be fine. But you've got to be real clear that you're protecting those, like and understanding them. Like if someone were to come into your business and say, well, what's so special of XYZ manufacturing? If you can't give them an answer, well, like here is how we do things. Here's our policies and procedures. This is how we do everything in the business. You're behind. And AI can help you with that for sure. But like that's your value, is like, what do you know?
Yeah, that was part of our previous discussion with this other team. And I'm like, we can build this out. We can build out the world-class value proposition. Why you want to get this? You're not, we don't compete on price. How do we build this out? What do we do? Let's input our stuff. Let's record these conversations. Let's put these things in there. Because like the guy told me yesterday with the AI browser and everything else, he goes, it will be in the very, very near future, your personal assistant. Hey, book a plane flight, do this. It'll do everything you want it to do beyond, hey, Alexa, get this, right? Hey, Siri, do this. Like that's archaic. Okay. That's like a Rolodex, like the old flipping Rolodex. Okay. So like we look at this stuff and we have to, again, once you get exposed to this stuff, you start to open up, you will see possibilities for its implementation in the business in so many ways. And then you'll watch it grow. Because again, the difference to me, Christian, is it learns. It's not forgetting, it's learning these new things, whether that's phone calls, FAQs, whatever they are, they continue to develop. And then, oh, would you like me to do this? Because now it knows, it starts to predict. It's exactly a predictor because it knows you, right? And that's what it does. And this is what I've declared it. I've nicknamed it. It's creepy cool. That. Yeah. It's creepy, but it's cool. It's really cool, but this could get a little creepy. Okay, when it starts asking me those things, I'm like...
It's kind of like lovable. I mean, like you have an idea for an app. How long does it take you to roll it out and implement it? Like a day or 2? Like that's unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's their AI agents, man. They're going to create software. Software is going to be a thing of the past. You can be driving your car and say, hey, I need a new website. I need to say this, and it'll build it by the time you get to work. And you don't need a platform. You don't need Wix. You don't need any of that stuff. It's like people... Like, again, I feel like I know a lot. I know nothing. Okay. Compared to the average person, like I know a lot. Okay. But when I get into something, I get into something, so I'm pretty deep in this stuff. Right. And I'm like, because I see what it can do for small and mid-sized businesses that I work with. I'm like, we need to have this now. It's like you get the ultimate weapon. That can end a war of all wars. I can end it with this. I got to get the plans. I got to go build this thing.
It's
and fire
you know,
it, right?
if you go back and look at the last technological revolution with the advent of the internet, you know, when people, when you know, right before 2000 and the dot-com burst, there was it's a very similar situation that we have right now. There's all this buzz, there's all this money coming in, but very few people have figured out how to make money with it, right? But to your point, the internet did create a level playing field. Like anybody could have built Amazon, anybody, right? Jeff Bezos did, but it was open to everybody. And that's the same opportunity we have with AI.
Yeah. It's really, I was thinking about it, like it was 98, maybe. Internet stuff starting to happen, right? That bubble's building. I remember talking to a restaurant owner, cool little place, little Greek place in Chicago. And he's saying, look, man, we're talking about the malls. Malls are going to be gone, man. Everyone's just going to shop online. It's never going to, you know, it's like soon, like in a couple of years. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I want to try on a pair of shoes. That's all I was thinking. Like, I don't want to buy something I haven't. So, but it was interesting. That was like the thought process then. Like, this is all going away. And what was amazing so that was 98, 2012, 2015, maybe. Do you know how many stores were online? How much stuff was selling? 7% of all businesses, of all stores, was only 7% was online in 2015. There's still brick and mortar. Matter of fact, like a digital marketer, this big company, they do all that, all the online stuff. They started buying brick and mortar stores. And they took their online stuff and put them in stores because people wanted that experience. So we all think this, and look what happened.
It's like with the advent
it's
into the automobile. Everybody thought, well, the horse industry is going to go away. But in reality, it grew, but not as transportation, but as entertainment. And, you know, so you had people that showed horses, rode horses, raced horses, you know, right? And so, like, I think that's the thing that if you dwell on things is be a student of human behavior, like, because that's what's not going to change. The behavior shift, but what they want is not going to change.
Right. Yeah. Very, very, very good insight. I saw a picture the other day. They showed New York, 1900. Okay. All the horses and carriages on the street, the people. 1913, same picture, same angle, everything else. One horse on the whole, all the rest were cars.
Yeah.
13 years, like it's completely changed, right? Well, AI is going to shave that down to about 2 years. There's not going to be a 13-year time, but like you said, you can't predict. And when the smoke clears,
and to speak to your pace of change, it's doubling every 6 months, which we really can't comprehend. But like it's staggering how fast it's changing.
Yeah, it went and it was 7 months, then it's like every 3 weeks, it gets a month faster. So like that 7 months, 6 months is like, if we went and checked today, they're going to tell you it's this now. It's 4 months. It's where they did it with the military applications. What they thought would take, 3 months, it took 3 weeks for things to adapt. Like 3 weeks instead of 3 months. Okay. Like I said, it's hard to comprehend this stuff, what it can do, but go to the good side. Like, let's say you got an AI voice thing and someone's calling in your company and they ask a question that perhaps your AI agent hasn't heard. Well, then I go, hold on a second, let me check. It's literally going to pull that information and give them a response. I mean, it's like there's no delay, and then it's going to learn, and then it's going to search more, and then it'll check with you, is this the proper response you want to give? Right? Like people, it doesn't just, but it's
so like so take all of your product manuals. Like if you're a manufacturer, like every machine in your shop, take that into AI. Now all of a sudden you've got somebody to come along and train somebody along the machine. Hey, troubleshoot, the machine stopped working. Where do I look? All of that is immediately available. Like it's not like pie in the sky future. Like it's just do it. Yes.
And it will talk you through it. It'll correct you. It'll wait. It will never belittle
unless you program it to. I mean, you can program
it'll never
it to
storm off. I was talking to the guy with Lovable and all that stuff and this whole, this call stuff. He's like, well, the funnest part of the
Yes.
whole thing was pressure testing it,
Yes.
swearing at it and doing all this stuff. It's like,
Yes.
everyone got to take a turn, just beating up on it and doing all this stuff to see how it
Yes.
reacts. So I'm like, I love it. I love the excitement about it, but it's better than that because it's actually usable. I remember probably 20 some years ago, maybe it was longer, I was reading about the guy who discovered nanotechnology. Okay. And when he realized what he found, what he discovered, he literally almost lost his mind.
Mm-hmm.
He was so freaked out by its potential. He's
what
like,
have I done?
He was like, he's like, it was that experience for him. He's just like, it's wild. I mean, this isn't maybe on that level. Maybe it was 8 years ago. Now it's been like tamed a little bit. Now there's a little more control and people are seeing the results, which I think is helpful. They see the use of it and how powerful it is. And I'll tell you, when I was talking to my client, we're talking about a competitor. Okay. He's not a nice competitor. Okay. He's a person who maybe shouldn't be in business. So I'm just going to give a little inside Richard's mind here. So I said, well, let's have a little secret competition. Let's squash him into inexistence. Okay. Let's bring this company to a level and we'll use the tools that he won't even, any call he gets will be, I can't even call it a crumb. It'll be a speck. Okay. And he'll be done because he doesn't, he has no principles. Okay. He does everything. I mean, it's just that we all know a guy like that, right? A company like that. I said, that's going to be our secret goal.
That.
Give him the way. That's our secret goal. What do you say? I go, what do you say? 2 years? Should we set 2 years? Because I can't predict further than that. Let's have him squashed inside 2 years. And the owner's like, he loves it. He's it's like me. We're similar, like give him the fist bump. Okay, man, we got our secret goal. All right. We're gonna squash him. And
no,
I don't know if that's evil. To me, that is competing because we're taking ours to a way high level.
Right.
We're not lowballing. We're not trying to get them to do a Walmart thing or whatever. It's like, we're going to go up. We're going to charge more. We're going to give more in our services. We're going to do that. We'll still work half as much as they do and make twice as much. It's going to be fantastic. So we're laid this out. It's really cool. So it's just, again, the tools, with the right tools, you can do a lot of things.
I hate to cut this short, but I have a call at the top of the hour that I need to take.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, you're done. I'm tired of talking to you. I was just about to say that. How dare you drag this out so long? Well, Christian, good. Let's wrap this up, man. We're almost at an hour anyways. This has been awesome. And as everyone knows, Richard never has a plan for a podcast episode. So this just went where it had to go. We hit two amazing different sides of the coin here. And they were both so
we are.
Because
don't try this at home.
We know our stuff. So that's right. But Christian, if people want to get into, because there's a lot more that you do, your profit first stuff, everything else. But how do they get, what's the quickest?
My website, christianbrim.com. That's the easiest place. It has all my social handles, buy my book, listen to my podcasts, all that.
Love it. Love it. You heard it. christianbrim.com. Guys, go there, check it out. He's a wealth of information and application, and check it out. Christian, thanks for all the time today, man. This has been just a fantastic conversation as always.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you. And you bet. And for everyone else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Sharpen the Spear podcast. If today's episode helped you think sharper, act smarter, or see new profit potential, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow home service owner and leave a quick review. Ready to find the profit hiding in your business? Head to sharpenthespearcoaching.com and book your free profit discovery call today. And until next time, keep sharpening.